This first one, Gregory Boyd in his book God at War, The Bible and Spiritual Conflict, explains, he says, quote, "It is therefore the responsibility of every believer to understand the need to put on the whole armor of God that they may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. The general assumption of both the Old and New Testaments is that the earth is virtually engulfed by a cosmic battle between good and evil, and that evil and suffering are ultimately due to the evil aspect of this diabolical siege." This is something to think about, because everybody's always blaming God for everything. Have you noticed that? It's particularly in the day and times we live in. Oh, they say all these terrible things against God, and they'll cuss God, and they'll do all these things about God, and the reality is it's Satan's fault. It's not God's fault. We're always wanting to blame God. Well, if I got what I deserved, I'd get death and hell. In the 10th chapter of Daniel, and again, this is the report from Tom Horn there, the Bible lifts the curtain on interdimensional activity in what is considered to be one of the most important scriptures having to do with spiritual warfare. This is where the prophet Daniel is found fasting and praying for 21 days. Now, this was considered a Daniel fast. He was abstaining from certain things, and you can look up Daniel fast, like just do a keyword search for it. You can also look up biblical fasting, because I get a lot of questions. Now, I do have an attachment I can send people on that as well. It's a lot. There's a lot of links and there's a lot of things, and I can't say I've read every little thing on every little link, but from what I did read, it looked pretty solid regarding that. So I can email that to you if you email me. And my email address is drjohnson at the letter I, the letter x.netcom.com, and you can also get it off the website at contendingfortruth.com. So anyway, Daniel was found fasting and praying for 21 days. He had proposed to chasten himself before the Lord in hopes that God would bless him with the revelation of Israel's future. On the 21st day of his fast, while standing on the bank of the Tigris River, an angel suddenly appeared to him and said, "From the first day that thou didst set thine heart to understand, and to chasten thyself before thy God, thy words were heard, and I am come for thy words." But the thing was, though, is he had to go the full 21 days in order for the actual prayer to get answered. And again, we're going to read why in a second here. If a messenger was dispatched from heaven from the first day, why did it take 3 weeks before he arrived? The angel provided the answer by explaining that a powerful Persian demon, I believe it's called the Prince of Persia, had opposed him for 21 days. Not until the archangel Michael came to assist in the battle was he free to continue his journey. So these angels are actually up there fighting with one another. I mean, can you imagine? I would love to see one of those battles take place you know what I mean? If we could see into that realm, I think that'd be pretty awesome. It would probably overwhelm us so much to even see the battle. You know what I mean? I mean, just to even see an angel, I've seen what their reactions were. Can you imagine seeing one of those battles? Woo, man. Wow. So anyway, that's awesome. Let's see. So not until the archangel Michael came to assist in the battle was he free to continue his journey. The book of Daniel also describes similar powers at work behind Babylon, Greece, and Rome, revealing an incredible tenet that demons can control not only individuals, but entire societies on a territorial scale. See, this is something good to fully understand and get your head wrapped. I know I quote these verses a lot about battling, who is our battle really with, but it's good to, because see, I get into so many current events and it's so easy to get your eyes off, just get your eyes on Obama. Obama's the cause. No. Number one, Obama's a puppet on a string. Bush was a puppet on a string. There's people above him in the Illuminati that are pulling those strings, but who's above them? You can literally go right up the food chain to get to Satan. So again, it's good that we maintain that viewpoint. So again, when it says we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places, Well, again, this is what we're in reference to here with this Prince of Persia, fallen angel, that Michael ultimately had to battle. We're kind of in that realm there. And there's different hierarchies, there's different rankings. So, this is going further in this article here. In Persian theology, the spirit that opposed Daniel and his angel would have been identified as Ahriman. Now, this isn't Persian theology, what I'm talking about here, okay? This is what they would believe about this. I just thought this was kind of interesting, this next paragraph. Whose legend closely parallels the biblical fall of Lucifer. See, you have to understand, in either Persian, Egyptian, Sumerian, they've got very, very similar, many, many times, stories about the gods they've worshipped or the gods of old. What it is it's typically the same entity, just with a different name or repackaged slightly different. In this particular case, we're talking about Satan or Lucifer here. So again, the spirit that opposed Daniel in Persian theology and his angel would have been identified as Ahriman, whose legend closely parallels the biblical fall of Lucifer. According to the Persian religion, Ahriman was the death dealer, the powerful self-existing evil spirit from whom war and all other evils had their origin. He was the chief of the cacodemons, or the fallen angels, is another way of saying daemons. Expelled from heaven for their sins, after being kicked out of heaven, the cacodemons, or daemons, endeavored to settle down in various parts of the earth, and out of revenge found pleasure in tormenting the inhabitants of the earth. Why? Because we're created in God's image. So if we're created in God's image, and obviously they have a really big advantage on us from a certain extent, we can't see them. They're pure evil. They've been around a lot longer than we have. They're actually probably operating to a certain extent, a much higher intelligence than we are. Now, I understand there's certain things that I believe we have an advantage of because I don't believe they can feel love or godly types of emotions. So they have a big disadvantage in that regard. But anyway, let's see. The cacodemons, Ahriman and his followers finally took up their abode in the space between heaven and earth and established their domain, called Ahriman Abad. The abode of Ahriman is what it means. From this location, the cacodemons could intrude into and attempt to corrupt the governments of men. I believe this is actually another dimension they're in reference to. This abode of Ahriman, it's probably in another dimension. Part 5 of this report, just excerpts of this report. Now, this is another thing I have covered in the past, but it also relates to this subject, and I'm just going to touch on it again. And there's a lot of maybe new listeners that have never heard this. And it's good. It relates to the Bible verses that I talked about at the beginning. This very much, and what I'm trying to get you to do is make this real to you. I'm trying to make the Bible come alive to you. Because that's what it did for me. So in 1918, famed occultist Aleister Crowley, in an attempt to discover how those evil emissaries discussed in the last entry could be extended from their cosmos into man's reality, undertook to create a magical vortex that would span the gap between the world of the seen and the unseen. Now, Aleister Crowley he fancied himself as the wickedest man of the 1900s. He called himself the Beast. He liked to portray himself with 666 on his forehead. The man was beyond sick. I mean, I tried to watch a documentary on the guy once, and I think I had to turn it off. I just couldn't take it anymore. He was so sickening. What these occultists do at these highest levels is so grotesque, so sickening, that I don't even want to get into the stuff that they do. But things that you probably would have never even envisioned or thought to do in your head, Satan puts in their head to do, because Satan tries to defile them to the greatest possible extent, because that is the way that they attain more power, is through debauchery and all manner of disgusting perverseness that you could ever even... It's hard to even comprehend it. But that's what they do. That's their religion. That's how they practice their religion. And guys like Aleister Crowley are very, very serious at how they practice their religion. Okay, so